Are the traditional schools the only option? Or are there others?
It's a big question these days.
That compares to pretty well-known alternatives, Montessori, obviously, and Acton Academy.
Two distinct models.
And our goal is, well, pretty straightforward. We really just want to give you, the listener, a clearer picture if you're weighing these options for your child.
Without all the dense educational theory, hopefully. Just the essentials.
So let's start with Montessori. The source material really talks about this idea of child-led learning. What's that actually look like day to day?
The foundation of Montessori is this belief in a kid's innate drive and their push towards independence. So the core of it is what they call the prepared environment. It's a classroom space, but it's meticulously set up.
Prepared how?
With specific hands-on materials. Things designed to spark curiosity and let kids explore on their own terms. The goal really is for kids to develop this deep, internal love of learning. It comes from them directing their own exploration.
So the environment itself is the teacher, in a way, not just the adult in the room.
The learning is super tactile, very hands-on. Kids often work alone or maybe in small groups with these unique materials, and they can spend quite a long time on one thing, really concentrating. You usually see very little technology, especially when they're young.
And the teacher, what's their role in that kind of setup?
They're more of a guide, a facilitator. They observe a lot, offer help when needed, introduce new materials when a child seems ready.
But not lecturing from the front of the class.
Exactly. Not dictating every single step. The focus is really on understanding things through direct experience, and building that self-reliance.
Okay, that paints a clear picture. Now let's switch gears to Acton Academy.
Acton definitely draws inspiration from Montessori, that's clear. But its mission is quite distinct. It's centered on developing what they call hero learners.
The hero learners.
The idea is equipping students not just with knowledge, but with the skills and, importantly, the mindset to actually make an impact in the world.
Okay, so more outward focused, maybe?
You could say that. Their sort of motto is learn to learn, learn to do, and learn to be. So yeah, it's about mastering core skills, absolutely. But it's also very much about tackling real-world problems, building leadership, and developing self-governance, personal responsibility.
So if Montessori is nurturing that initial spark, that independence, Acton sounds like it's taking that and adding layers, like practical application, future impact.
That's a really good way to think about it, yeah. The actual learning experience at Acton reflects that. You might see some hints of Montessori, sure, but it's much more blended, more dynamic.
How?
Project-based learning is huge, and these aren't just your typical school projects. They're often long-term, tackle multiple subjects, and the students have real ownership over the process, like solving actual problems.
Okay.
They also use the Socratic method a lot. Deep discussions, asking probing questions to get kids thinking critically.
Less direct instruction, more questioning.
Exactly. And here's a big difference from traditional Montessori technology. Acton uses it strategically.
How?
For personalized learning, mainly. Letting kids master core skills like math or grammar at their own pace using specific software. And they also bring in things like apprenticeships, connecting what they're learning to actual jobs and work environments.
That learn to do part.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where we start seeing some really key differences parents need to think about. Entrepreneurship, specifically.
Yes, that's a major distinction. Acton puts a huge, deliberate emphasis on fostering an entrepreneurial mindset.
Which means?
That means building leadership skills, self-management, creativity, seeing opportunities, solving problems. All that stuff is woven right into the program.
And Montessori?
You could argue that the independence fostered in Montessori definitely builds some related traits like self-reliance and initiative.
Sure.
But it's not an explicit central goal in the same way. Acton is intentionally trying to cultivate that entrepreneurial spirit.
Got it. That makes sense. And the technology piece feels like another really practical difference for parents.
Absolutely. Very different philosophies there. Traditional Montessori really values that direct, hands-on interaction with physical materials. Tech is minimal, generally. Acton, on the other hand, sees tech as a powerful tool. They leverage it for that personalized mastery we talked about and for accessing way more information and resources.
So it's integrated on purpose.
Very much. It's a strategic part of how they enhance and personalize the whole learning journey. It is interesting, though, how much tech they use given Montessori's roots. Parents might want to consider the screen time aspect.
That's a fair point. Okay, and the source also mentions student agency or independence and how that kind of progresses. Both value it.
Oh, definitely. Both are big on student independence.
But Acton does something different over time.
Yeah, this is a really interesting evolution they build in. While both empower students, Acton explicitly increases student responsibility as they get older.
Increases how?
Not just for their own learning path, but also for how their learning community, their studio, actually functions.
So they help run the place, basically.
In a way, yes. This idea of self-governance and shared responsibility gets stronger as they mature. It really builds ownership and leadership.
That's quite different. But it's also really important to remember Acton was inspired by Montessori. There are connections.
Absolutely vital point.
Yeah.
They aren't totally separate universes. That deep commitment to student agency, that's a huge common thread.
Right. Believing kids can take charge of their learning.
Both models really valued developing independent, self-motivated learners. That's a major departure from traditional teacher at the front models. They both put the child's active role front and center.
Okay, so for you, the parent listening, maybe wondering if the standard school system is the only way, what's the main takeaway here?
I think the key thing is, it's not really about which one is better. That's probably the wrong question. Montessori provides this really strong foundation. Guided discovery, intrinsic motivation, built through those unique materials and the child-led environment. And then Acton Academy builds on some similar ideas, but adds a really strong focus on future-ready skills.
Like the entrepreneurship, the tech integration.
Exactly. Tech for personalized learning and that whole mindset of self-governance and real-world problem solving.
So maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Thinking about your own child, their personality, their needs, what makes them tick. Which of these models, their core mission, the way learning actually happens day to day, which one resonates more? Which one feels like that environment where your kid won't just learn facts, but will actually thrive, where their curiosity gets lit up, their independence grows?
And they feel empowered to become their best selves. Yeah, that's the real question.